Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the next session in our Aging Strong and Falls Prevention series. Before we get started, I want to let you know about some upcoming events happening at the library. So next Tuesday night at 7 p.m., we'll be joined by photographer Joy Marzal for a lecture on animal behavior for the photographer. Also, community yoga continues to meet at 9:30 on Wednesday mornings. So please bring a mat, but if you don't have one can be provided for you. And now I'd like to introduce our presenter for today, Debbie Lynn Toomey, RN and coordinator of the Tufts Medical Center's Injury Prevention Program. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Camille, and thank you to the Thomas Crane Public Library and the QATV for continuing to support my outreach efforts as Tufts Medical Center's injury prevention professional. So today's topic is on home modification. And before I introduce to you Amy Fink, who is our guest speaker today, I just want to share with you a very brief quote that I got from the AARP 2018. And they said that 75% of people age 50 and older have a goal to remain in their home as they age. Well, I can tell you for sure, I'm one of those 50 and up people who definitely I have the intention, my husband and I have the intention of aging in place as long as we can. And as we are thinking about ourselves, remodification or, remodeling, just from what I've been learning and after actually talking with people like Amy, who are really experts in home modification, it's really gotten me to think about, okay, what is it that I really need for myself in the future? What does my future self need in this home to help me live comfortably and safely? And so today, during this time, this hour with Amy, I'm hoping that she will share with us really valuable information on how we all can age in place in a wonderful way. And maybe she can mention different types of equipments, resources, information out there that we could all benefit from. So Amy, welcome.
Thanks for inviting me, Debbie.
Oh, you're welcome. I just want to let me just give you a proper introduction, okay, as people are coming into the meeting here. All right, so Amy Fink is a vice president of business development for Lifeway Mobility. Amy has been helping clients with home safety and accessibility solutions for more than 15 years. Before joining Lifeway, she owned Sugar Hill Building and Design, which specialized in home modifications for seniors and those with special needs. She is a certified aging in place specialist and a certified environmental access consultant. She has been leveraging her experience and law degree. She regularly collaborates with elder law and special needs attorneys, healthcare providers, clinicians, and care managers to meet the home modification needs of their clients. So we certainly have the expert here today to be able to share with us what she does. And she does work for Lifeway, which is a mobility company. It's an accessibility solutions company that helps individuals with stair lifts, wheelchair lifts and ramps, home elevators, bathroom safety solutions to improve customers' mobility and independence. So Amy, welcome.
Thanks so much. I know that's a mouthful, but basically what you need to know is I've been doing this for a long time, and my passion is to help people who are choosing and want to live in their homes to be able to do that for as long as it's possible for them. And there's so many considerations to take into account. So we're going to talk about all that in the next hour.
Great. I'm looking forward to that.
So am I good to go and share a screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, I am with Lifeway Mobility, and that's, what we do at Lifeway. And so this is an educational presentation where I'm just going to share a little bit that I have learned from in my experience in working with people who are trying to make their homes as accessible as possible. So the stairs that I'm showing on this slide here, somebody came to me and they're like, I'm having a little trouble getting into my home. And you could imagine, it might be, there's really nothing to hold on to. You've got, steps with snow on them. And I see they tried to lay some carpeting down to make it easier, but that's really not the optimal solution. So it really does help to get an expert in, a profession, getting in the right professionals to help you. And the changes don't have to be extreme, and they don't have to cost a lot of money, because sometimes even really simple things can, like in this instance, maybe a railing could make life a lot easier. So, what I'm, planning on talking about today is how to identify which parts of your house do you need to address. It's not always easy to recognize that, especially when it's your own home. I am great at pointing these things out in other people's homes, but it's much harder when you're looking at your own home to try and identify these areas. And then, we'll talk about, what can you do? What are your options for modifying those spaces to make them safe? It's really what you're talking about is increasing safety, reducing the risk of a fall, and just making life more convenient and more comfortable, so that you can enjoy your time in your home. And then who to call for help, so that, to arm you with information so you can make as informed a decision as possible. And generally, when we're talking about these areas, and, I mentioned how to identify them, there's really generally 3 key areas that I take a look at when I'm going into a home. And it's really getting in and out of the house, getting up and down the stairs, and, basically navigating around your home, and then bathroom safety, because for in my mind, those 3 areas are key to be able to remain in your own home. If you are missing any of those areas to be able to do them safely, it's not a good idea to continue to live in your own home. So we're going to talk about solutions, focus on solutions in those 3 areas. And Debbie, you had mentioned already, when we talk about why is this important, and to whom it is important. And really, as you mentioned, 3 out of 4 adults over the age of 50 want to continue to stay in their own homes. And, I am right there with you. I like my home. I want to continue to live here as long as possible. But most homes are not designed for what we call aging in place. So, a lot of times, with a few exceptions, and I'll say that I'm proud of my dad. I always think of him when I'm having this conversation, because he had the foresight to actually design a home when he was probably 60 years old. He designed a home that really was designed to age in place. It had no steps to get in and out of the house. It had spacious bathrooms, wide doorways, the proper kind of handles on the doors. He, put the cabinets at the right height, and, all kinds of things to anticipate aging in place. But he is the exception rather than the rule. And most homes have, oftentimes stairs, maybe to get up to your 2nd floor bedroom, stairs to get in and out of the home. And, a lot of homes have teeny tiny bathrooms, which make it very hard to maneuver. So when you have we're aging and our houses aren't really suitable for aging in place, it creates a lot of people facing these kind of issues in areas where we can really make those modifications to make it work much better. And I really consider this good design. And you may have heard of the term universal design, but universal design just really means it's good for anyone of any age. And I think of my daughter when she was a little girl. She slipped in the bathtub. I still feel terrible about this, but if I only had a grab bar in the bathroom, maybe that would have prevented that slip and fall, because she would have had something to hold on to. So it's really for people of any age. Like, these ideas that we're talking about can apply in a lot of scenarios. So, when I talk about timing, and I mentioned my dad, who did plan ahead. And I've had a few clients over the years, and they really are exceptions rather than the rule. I had, one woman had come to me, and she had Parkinson's disease. And she was concerned that while she was able to navigate her home now, she might not be able to do it in the future. And so we all think that we're going to plan ahead. However, the reality is that at least the calls that I get are very often triggered by an event, either a fall, like a diagnosis, somebody's gotten not so good news from their doctor, or somebody who is getting discharged from the hospital because, they went into the hospital much more mobile than maybe they're coming out of the hospital. And now they want to go home, and what's preventing them from going home is those steps to get into their home, or their ability to their bathroom not being suited for their needs any longer. So, when we talk about when this issue comes up, in a perfect world, we'd all be planning ahead. And for those of you that are listening out there, it's very likely that you are that person that's planning ahead and getting this information ahead of time. So kudos to you guys. I will mention that, things that affect, and Debbie, I'm sure this has come your way as well, things that might increase the risk of a fall the risk of a fall is higher upon hospital discharge. It's my understanding. And it's also higher if somebody's on multiple medications.
Definitely.
So, if you're taking a lot of medications or you have poor balance, those are maybe times when you might want to be more aware that this is possibly an issue, right?
Yeah, I like this slide because it's timing is key. It's just, you want to be able to anticipate certain needs and not really run on the crisis mode, but more in a preventative mode. And, it's home modification is something that's a little bit different. Like say if somebody had a knee replacement, they will need physical therapy to help them go up and down the stairs, learn how to use crutches or maybe walkers, do exercises, and maybe have some temporary devices like a shower chair or a raised toilet seat. But what we're talking about here is home modification that's going to allow you to really age, get older in a safer way, and hopefully reduce the risks of any type of unintentional injuries that can happen in your home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, when we think about how to get started with this, the starting point in my mind is always the evaluation and identifying those parts of the home that could be a risk factor. Now, if you're getting discharged from the hospital and you're, like, for example, if you're in a wheelchair and you weren't before, it becomes very obvious, I can't get up those steps to get into my home. So, sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not as obvious. So one approach is to either, there's all kinds of checklists that you can find online. This is the checklist that I use as a Lifeway mobility professional, or one of them. But, this is, we are not healthcare professionals at Lifeway. Debbie, you're a nurse and a healthcare professional and have that extra input. So it's really good to get a team of people as needed and as appropriate. So oftentimes, a home access professional like I am can go in and we can take a look at the home, have a general look at the individual, and get enough information to really determine what, give that person options. Like maybe it's a stair lift, maybe it's a ramp, maybe it's this or that, but we can give people options, let them know how much it costs, and then they can take that information and hopefully in non-panic mode, non-crisis mode, and make the best decision for themselves. If you get maybe a complex situation, let's say somebody has dementia and needs a stair lift, and this is something that actually it came up recently to me, it ran across my desk, and I can say, here's the stair lift that can be put in, here's your options, like maybe it's a curved stair lift or a straight stair lift. I can give you, all kinds of options for the stair lift, but I really need to, I look to the client themselves to be like, what are you able to use? How can you use it? And we work together. Maybe we call in, and actually in this instance, we called in an expert from the Alzheimer's Association who could send us to the appropriate resources. Maybe that person needed an OT evaluation or whatever the special circumstances were for that individual. So, we will, I say that we provide, but we don't prescribe solutions. So we work with, if it's necessary, the healthcare professional can really add a whole nother dimension. And when Lifeway works together with OTs and PTs and nurses, we really get a great, the optimal solution for an individual. So that is not always needed. And I would say in 90% of the situations that come across my desk, we don't always need to call in that healthcare professional, but it's always on my mind, so that, because at the end of the day, when I go into a home, I just want to give the person the most information as possible so that they can make the best decision for themselves.
I like that because, it's not just coming from one person, and you have other people's input who also perhaps may know the person in a different way than yourself. And so they're able as a team with the client. So doing this whole change in partnership with the client is going to set up the client, the person, set them up for success and safety, which is everybody's goals, whoever is going to be there for that particular individual, because we want everybody to just have a safe environment that they could just independently, with whatever device that they could use or need, to just be able to be comfortable and be safe and be happy, and just know that, that's their castle, and they can just stay there as long as they want.
Absolutely. And this also comes up a lot, when people are bringing on maybe a home care agency. And I know home care agencies generally go into the home at the beginning when someone's a new client, and they do a home evaluation. And that person may also, notice that there's an issue and not know where to turn. So that's a situation where you could reach out to a home access professional. Sometimes upon discharge from a hospital, certain, and I don't quote me on this, but I think maybe Medicare, I don't know the details on this, but oftentimes there may be an option to get a home evaluation. That's something, you mentioned my background's a lawyer, and I'll never, if I don't know, I'll tell you when I don't know. But that's something that I see often, is that someone's getting discharged, they have an evaluation, and that's when they call, reach out to us to find out what their options are. They spot the issue and we provide options for the solution. So again, it's really those three key areas: getting in and out of the home, up and down the stairs, navigating throughout the home, and then the bathroom safety. So what I thought we could do is just take a look one by one at those key areas and talk about different things that you can do to your home. And I'm going to start with getting in and out of the house. And if you look at this home here, this isn't a home in the middle of Boston for sure, but it is a typical New England colonial, and this individual was no longer able to get up those stairs, to get into their home. They had a couple of stairs to get onto their deck, and that's the entry that they used all the time. And then the other entry in the front of the home, to get to that, he had a rocky path, which was also not conducive for fall prevention. So, we can talk, these are real life scenarios and make like real differences in people's lives. He wanted to go back to his own home. So, some of the simpler things you can do are to make sure that you have lighting at your entrance of your home, that any stairs that you are able to use are secure, and stable. And, doorknobs are, maybe you want a lever handled doorknob, if that's easier to turn than maybe another kind, which might be harder to grip. But really where I'm going to focus is the physical modifications you can do, such as, for example, a railing. And a railing is just a really simple thing you can do that might be all somebody needs, either a railing on one side of maybe those 3 steps getting in and out of the garage, or railing. Sometimes people need railings on both sides, depending on their particular condition. Sometimes that's a lot safer, but it just gives somebody that stability and something to hold on to. And it can be as simple as, like I'm showing on the slide here, a fancy railing even for a garage, but you can even just put a grab bar there sometimes to have a really low cost, simple solution to provide yourself something to hold on to.
Amy, you know what, the picture on the left reminds me of my front steps used to not have railings. And when we would have family gatherings, and my father-in-law, when he was alive, and before we installed the railings, he would avoid going up the front steps because it had no railings. He would rather go down our driveway and use our back steps, which had the railings. And when we installed the railings in the front steps, finally, he was just so happy because then he was able to have something to hold on to. He had Parkinson's, so he had something to hold on to make it up the front steps. And he was just so grateful. And back then, it wasn't really in the back of my mind to really install the railings for my parents, my in-laws. But geez, now that I'm 50 plus, it makes such a big difference. It gives people such a confidence boost to be able to go up and down those stairs. And it's just a game changer. And railings, really, it's something we take for granted.
And just a simple thing it's a simple thing you can add some support and like you said, add some comfort for people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time to put the railing in. Sometimes a railing, isn't enough because people are not able to navigate the stairs safely. And so that's where we might take a look at a ramp. And what I'm showing here is a modular aluminum ramp. And the thing that I like about these is that they're removable when you don't need them any longer, which is as opposed to a wooden ramp. Once you put a wooden ramp in, it's a permanent fixture, really. So the modular aluminum ramp, think like Lego kits. You can configure them in a bunch of different ways, and then put them into a variety of different configurations that will work for in different locations. So they have a texture to them so that they're slip resistant, because a lot of times people ask me, like, what do those feel like and are they slippery? But they have a textured non-slip finish to them so that they have a lot of texture. They are slip resistant. And because they're aluminum, they're maintenance free. In other words, they don't rust like steel might actually rust over time. And, they're relatively quick to put in because, places generally have, like we have them in stock. You just call and we have the parts and we can put them in. And then they're, like I said, removable when you don't need them any longer. And generally we rent them. Some places rent them, some places don't. But, it's nice to know that if you think it's going to be a temporary need, you'd be able to rent a ramp and not pay for it when you don't need it any longer. So, a ramp, what I'm going to do is show you this is an example of a ramp that we put inside a garage. And the reason I'm showing this is oftentimes, I think about my brother who has a mobility issue and he doesn't move quickly. And maybe he doesn't move as quickly as I do. So if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's really hot, I want to get him out of that weather. And so if it's possible to put the ramp in the garage, that's a really good location. But then, there's so many different factors like, will your car still fit in the garage? And that's why I always go back to that assessment and getting an assessment by a knowledgeable professional who could know the options, the pros and the cons. Then you have that information before you put it in, before you install it in maybe the wrong spot. So, one thing to consider is the location of the ramp. And then the next thing is the ramp, the appropriate pitch for an individual. So, the ramp that I'm showing here was not a ramp that I certainly installed, but I got a phone call from a woman who said, I was trying to save some money. I had my handyman put in a ramp and this is what he put in. And oh my gosh, I'm afraid to walk out my door. She goes, I feel like there's a ski slope there. So, it's important that, you're working with a professional that understands the factors involved. And, maybe another thing with this ramp is if you try to imagine holding onto those railings, they're not very grippable. And I don't, and it's very hard to see on a tiny screen, but, there's not much of a platform at the top, not really much level space at the top of that ramp, or at the bottom, there's cobblestones again, which is a rocky, an uneven landing. So that's what you don't want. And, we don't want what she had, because she ended up, I think she said, this was a number of years ago, that she paid $1,000 for that ramp, but then she had to pay to get it removed and get the proper ramp put in. So, sometimes the cheaper price isn't the best option, because it ended up not being the less expensive option. So, if the moral of the story is, you want to have the proper pitch, taking into account who's going to use the ramp, and of course, building codes so that it's, in accordance with the building codes as well. So that's just a little bit about ramps. Sometimes you don't need a ramp. Sometimes the solution might be what I call a threshold ramp. And this is, for those maybe inch or two at your doorways or at, various parts of your home where the levels are uneven. I've seen that like sometimes from the kitchen floor to the hallway floor, the level of the floors are not even. So when you have thresholds, there's something called a threshold ramp that you can put in front of your door. And of course, like you need to have the measurements so that you can get the right tool for the job basically. But these are some options that don't have to cost much at all. And those threshold ramps come in, the ones I showed were rubber. They're made out of basically recycled tires, but then they also come in aluminum. So in other words, lots of variety so that you can get the right threshold ramp for your doorway. So, it's really, this is all about helping people in their own homes. And there's so many different things that you could do. And it's really knowing what your choices are and picking out the right one. So, sometimes, for example, in a garage, the solution might be a ramp, but I had an instance where the solution was a stair lift for somebody who had those 3 steps in the garage, and they didn't want to use up the room in their garage because they needed to park their car. And this person was able to transfer onto the stair lift. So that ended up being a good solution for that person. So when we talk about stair lifts, the common scenario where I see that is, oh my gosh, my bedroom is on the 2nd floor. And how do I get up there? I'm really worried about getting up and down those stairs. And stairs are actually, there's a high incidence of falls that happen on the stairs. And especially if you put in all those factors that we talked about before, getting out of the hospital, being on medication, or even just like my mom, love my mom, she's 91 years old, and she uses a cane, and stairs are a challenge for her to get up and down those stairs. So there's a couple of things when it comes to stairs. Of course, you have your lighting, you want to make sure the stairs are secure, and definitely remove clutter on the stairs so that, it's not something that someone's going to trip on if it's clutter that's on their stairs. But again, this is an opportunity for railings, maybe on both sides if someone doesn't have those, but the stair lift is a really good option for the stairs. And a lot of times people are thinking that a stair lift is a big deal, but it's very simple solution. Really, when you talk about a stair lift, you're talking about a railing that sits on the stairs themselves. And then you have a motorized chair that goes up and down. So you basically sit on the chair, push a button, and it takes you up and down the stairs. So much easier and safer for an individual who is concerned that they're going to fall on the stairs. So, a stair lift, you might have a straight stair lift like the one that I'm showing you here. And, if your stairs are straight, you might end up needing a curved stair lift if you have a curved stairway. And then, stair lifts can be outside as well as inside. So lots of options. And, the best way to know, again, I always go back to that. I can't help it. I always go back to that evaluation, because how are you supposed to know what is going to be the best solution for you? Unless you get a professional in to maybe guide the way a little bit.
I like how you keep referring to the assessment, because that's it. It grounds the person, it gives a person and the professionals a plan. So that way nothing is missed. They're attending to the key areas in the home. Like you said, getting in and out of the house, the stairs, going up and down the stairs. And I'm sure you'll be talking about the bathroom soon, but it focuses on the key points of the home that the person's going to be using a lot.
Absolutely. And, I know I don't like talking quite so much. And so I have a short video here that is in the words of someone themselves who benefited from these items. And he is actually sitting with his daughter, who happened to be, she was either occupational or physical therapist. I can't remember which one. And it kind of brings to light another issue that comes up that I see a lot, which is sometimes you have a family dynamic where the adult child is like, Mom, you need this, that, and the other thing. And mom's like, no, I don't. So I think it's very important to respect, the person the end user of these items, and respect their wants, wishes, and desires. But it's also important to, take into account your own, the adult child's observations. And I'm speaking, me and my mom, and we have conversations, and I really go back to the whys. I think it's important to talk about when I'm talking with my mom about if I suggest a stair lift for her, why am I suggesting that? What are my concerns? And then, she might, ask her, what are her concerns? And then it really opens the door to having more of a conversation, because people just by human nature are resistant to change. And maybe this is because I just hung up the phone with my mom. What can I say? people can, I'm very resistant to change, especially if you think, someone that's lived in their house, sometimes it's a few years, but sometimes it's 40, 50 years you've been in your home. You've lived with it all this time. So that is just another factor in all of this. I'm showing you products, but this, again, it's about people. It's about helping individuals, and really listening to the person who's going to use these items is important. So that being said, I'll play this video and make sure, Deb, just nod your head and make sure you can hear the sound that goes with this. Okay.
I was having difficulty navigating the stairs because of my neuropathy and problem with my knees. And I actually had a bad accident on the stairs at the top of the stairs and fell down backwards and ended up breaking a disc in my back and some other problems. So I thought, this is too dangerous for me to try and navigate these stairs. And my daughter, who has some experience with this because of her therapy background, suggested this stair lift. Well, I had to wait for help, put on a gate belt, and wait for my wife for that to watch over me and help me down the stairs and up the stairs. So I was kind of severely limited to my mobility to get around in the house, where this gives me very easy access to any level in the house.
He was a little resistive because he thought he could rehab himself to get stronger to do the stairs. However, he's had multiple falls, and falls on stairs is very serious.
And that was the final straw when I did that. Because then I went to rehab for like 4 or 5 months and gained some mobility back, but it never got to the point where I could just run up and down the stairs.
You had a showroom, so we could go to the showroom and see what's available, and then he could see what I'm talking about. So that was helpful.
I don't think I'd ever seen one, to be honest with you. But to see it and use it, increased my appreciation for it tremendously.
So now he's more independent because he can get to every level of the house and do what he needs to do for himself.
It's improved it very much because it gives me access in the morning without being dependent on my wife and overworking her, that I can take care of myself.
So I just thought, it's kind of interesting to hear it, in the words of someone who actually ended up using that. And he brought up 2 things. One, he mentioned something about not wanting to take the burden off of his wife. And I came across a situation where there was a gentleman who he basically couldn't leave his bedroom because he couldn't get down the stairs to the main floor of his home. And he was fine with that until he thought about his wife bringing all the meals up and down, up and down, up and down the stairs. And that's when he decided to get the stair lift. He didn't want to do it for himself, but he wanted it to do it for his primary caregiver. So again, there's so many factors that go into this, and it's just so much more than just a piece of equipment. It's really taking in the whole situation into account.
Yeah, it was a really good video because it told the story of somebody who at first was resistant, and didn't think he needed it. Or maybe he kind of alluded to the fact that maybe he couldn't visualize what would a chair lift would look like, and is it too high tech, and how would that fit in his home. But when he did finally see how it worked and how it can benefit him, it looks like he was able to now move around more freely around his home, first floor and second floor, without again burdening his wife, which is a great thing.
Yeah, so, that was a good example. And, the third big area that you alluded to before was the bathroom and bathroom safety. When you think about it, you have a lot of transferring going on, and wet, slippery floors, it's really an accident waiting to happen. And in New England in particular, at least it's my experience, at bathrooms, while some of us may have big spacious bathrooms, a lot of times the bathroom's the smallest room in the house, and it's just a tiny little space with nothing to hold on to, and maybe a floor that gets really slippery when it's wet. So there's so many things you can do. I could talk, people that know me know that I could talk literally all day about grab bars, because there's so many different factors that go into a grab bar. But a grab bar to me is a very simple, relatively low cost solution that can have a big impact on fall prevention and safety. So a grab bar can be put into, a sheetrock wall. It can be put into a tile wall. People, often ask, like, what materials could it be installed into? Sometimes if you have a fiberglass shower that's like a preformed fiberglass shower, that might present some installation challenges. And that's where you might look to some alternatives like a floor to ceiling pole. So, this safety pole that I'm showing here, you can't see in the picture, but it actually, the bar that sticks out can move around the pole to really help that gentleman get up and down off the toilet, get in and out of the tub. And I've seen people put these by their bedsides and also by maybe their lounge chair in the living room to help them get up and down. So it's a very versatile solution. If anybody ever wants to see the video that shows this in motion, they can reach out to me. I can always be reached. I'm sure you'll have my contact information available, and we'll show it at the end. But I can be reached through Lifeway Mobility, and I can show the video as well to show the different ways that this pole can be used. But it's really made a huge difference to individuals. Sometimes it's used together with something like a tub cutout. And a tub cutout, we actually literally cut the front part of the tub out to make it easier for someone to get in and out of their bathtub. And of course, now this bathtub is basically a walk-in shower. So the bathtub, as you see here with the tub cutout, you can no longer take a bath in. But a lot of times what I see people doing is put a transfer bench with 2 feet in the tub and 2 feet on the bathroom floor. And then they can kind of slide over easily without having to lift their legs over the side of the tub. So that can be done in like a steel tub. It can be done in a porcelain tub or a fiberglass tub as well.
What a great idea. I mean, so the person doesn't have to get a total new bathroom remodeled and get their bathtub out. They can just have a part of the bathtub cut out and still be able to get in and out easily. So you've created a pseudo shower situation, which is really great.
Absolutely. I had a client who was in her 90s and she had a pink bathtub. She'd had it for 50 years and she liked her pink bathtub. You don't see that too often anymore for a new bathtub. But, we ended up doing a tub cutout. And not only did she get to keep her pink bathtub, but this can be done in less than a day, where a remodel is much more expensive and it's much more disruptive to people. And it just takes a lot longer time. So again, it's all about knowing your options. So you know what makes sense. I did have a client who really was concerned about not having a tub in their home anymore because we were cutting it. So there is an option called the convertible tub cut where it comes with an insert that you can put, take in and out. So when the insert is in, you can still take a bath in the bathtub. And then when the insert is out, the person can easily get in and out. It's more of a step-in shower. So lots of different options. I wouldn't expect anyone to remember all these options, but to just know, again, call for that evaluation, and then you can learn what the options are if you get an evaluation by a home access professional. And so another example that I have here is someone who we often combine solutions. So they use the floor to ceiling pole, the tub cutout, and a grab bar, because that particular individual couldn't use one side of his body. He could, like, he had a stroke or some medical situation where he could only use the left side of his body. So he needed the pole to help him get in the tub and the grab bar to help him get out of the tub. So, you know, lots of different ways to address this. Another, you know, different solution is something called, this is a very fancy transfer chair. It's called the Shower Buddy. And this might help someone, you know, with maybe some more severe limitations. This chair actually detaches from where you see it at the tub, and you can wheel it over to their bed. The person you transfers into this chair, maybe at their bed, and then you can wheel it either over the toilet or over to the shower or tub. And so it really, for someone with more severe limitations, limits the numbers of times that they have to do a transfer and enable them to do their activities of daily living properly. So again, options that are available. And I just thought I'd share this one.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So for this particular one, you'd need some sort of a companion or home health aide or a family member to be with you in order for you to do this seamlessly, it looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. A more, and I was going to say a more common solution, but maybe yes, maybe no, is a walk-in bathtub. This is the item that people see advertised at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep and they're watching television. And so they're like, oh, that walk-in bathtub. And they think it's, you know, in certain circumstances, it can be a really great solution, because you can, you know, they have a door that either swings in or out, and you could, for, you know, the needs of different people and their ability to transfer, and whether they have someone who's helping them. So in certain circumstances, it's really allows someone to soak when they otherwise can't soak. I see this a lot, you know, with veterans that, and others, but, you know, I came to mind was a veteran who really, due to his medical condition, he needed to soak. So this allowed him to be able to do that. But, you know, for somebody else, the tub cut might get them almost all the way there. They're not soaking in the tub, but they're getting in and out of their shower. So again, you know, this is just another option, the walk-in tub. And sometimes the answer is I call it a barrier-free shower. It's a shower where the floor of the shower is even with the floor of the bathroom. So you can just either roll or walk right into your shower. And that, you know, I think that this is a good solution, not only for someone who's in a wheelchair, but it's actually convenient for almost anyone, because it's very nice to have a barrier-free shower. And of course, the floor of the shower is pitched to the drain, so the water rolls down the drain and not into your bathroom. And of course, this picture doesn't have a curtain on it, which normally there would be a shower curtain to contain the water as well.
Yeah.
So again, lots and lots of options, but the question that I get very often is, how do I pay for this? And, you know, what are some funding options? And so, you know, for example, you know, I know this is educational presentation, but as an example, Lifeway Mobility, we have the ability to rent as well as purchase ramps and stair lifts. And there's, you know, various companies have maybe rent to own options. But generally speaking, typical health insurance doesn't cover the items that I'm showing you today. Generally, like, the insurance covers equipment, but it doesn't cover these modifications. I'm hoping that someday that will be different, but right now that's the way that it is. So there's a lot of different resources, and especially in Massachusetts, there's something called the Home Modification Loan Program, which has helped so many people to be able to do some of these bigger projects. And I'm, you know, for those of you that use Google, if you Google Home Modification Loan Program in Massachusetts, it's a really wonderful resource that a lot of other states don't have available, and that it really provides funding. And sometimes there's funding maybe with the ASAPs in Massachusetts. Sometimes there's funding, you know, if somebody has long-term care insurance, that might be a way to have funding for these items. Or if someone is a veteran, you know, oftentimes there are either benefits through the Veterans Administration, or more and more I'm seeing private organizations, like charitable organizations that have popped up that really are helping individual, like veterans. And another The other areas that I see of help is maybe the ALS Association or the Alzheimer's Association, or maybe an organization for MS, different organizations like that that might be able to help with funding. And so, I think this is a really important area because I get asked this question a lot. So on the Lifeway website, I've put resources, to kind of point people in the right direction for funding, and also there is another resource online. The Leonard Davis School of Gerontology has a directory. It's at homemods.org. And again, if anybody needs this information, I know I'm going by this quickly, but you can reach out to me and I'd be glad to get that information. You can reach out to me at Lifeway Mobility to get you that information, because it helps not only to know what you need, but oftentimes, an issue is how am I going to pay for it?
Yeah, Amy, I'm so glad you talked about fundings, because I'm sure besides people not thinking about how the concept of stair lifts or wheelchair access or ramps, just the concept of it could be very overwhelming. Another area that a person might say no to anything that may seem expensive is the cost. And unfortunately, we don't have too many available fundings out there for the aging population to be able to afford these type of home modifications. It's really a shame, and I hope that someday there'll be more resources and more funding out there.
Yeah,
So,
the ASAPs have been a really good resource, to me throughout Massachusetts, and you need to take into account is the person, sometimes if you're over 65, there's funding that's not available if you're under 65. And sometimes there's funding, maybe if you're disabled, there's other funding. It really takes, I found it takes a lot of research and digging to find the right funding, which is why I try to put it on the website so somebody else can benefit from all the digging that I have been doing.
Yeah. So Amy, we have a question. What is somebody is enjoying this presentation slide deck and was wondering if there's a way that they can get a copy of it so they can look over it even more at their own time.
Absolutely. I think the best way to do that for anyone that wants a copy is if you want to, if you can email me, and I will show my email address in a moment here. And actually I can go over to that really quickly.
Yeah.
My email address is amy@lifewaymobility.com. And you can just reach out to me and shoot me an email, and I'd be more than glad to send you a PDF of this deck. If you don't want to use email, I should say, if you go to the website, lifewaymobility.com, if you can't remember my email, you can just fill out, there's all kinds of forms on there, contact us, and you can just say, I want to reach Amy Fink and get a copy of this presentation, and I'd be happy to send that out. Or you can reach me at our office number, which is on this slide here, the 508-329-1031. And you can just ask for me, Amy Fink, and I'm also extension 1011, but that's a lot of information. So, or just reach out to Debbie Toomey, and she can get you over to me as well. But I'm happy to share this information, as well as answer if people have questions on their particular home and circumstance. This is what I did for years and years prior to coming to Lifeway, is consult with people to go over what their options are. And I love to do that. So I'm happy to help people.
Awesome. So Amy, you done with your slide presentation? Because I'd like to be able to just kind of be in gallery mode so that we can see each other. If people wants to come off want to show their faces or have any questions to ask Amy, please feel free to unmute, but don't be shy. I do have some questions, and you mentioned, first of all, if you can explain to us what ASAPs are. You mentioned ASAPs as one of the possible places to reach out to as far as fundings, in case some people do not know what ASAPs are. What is that?
So ASAP is ASAP there are a number of different ASAPs throughout Massachusetts, and I don't have at my fingertips the one that is in this particular area. And so I do use Google. I'm not good at multitasking, so I can't do it while I'm online here. So I
What are-
personally, there are agencies that work with people to show them what their choices are and different options and different benefits that might be available to someone given their particular circumstances. And I do know that the resources have been very helpful. So if we have a way to follow up, or again, I'll put my email information in the chat, and for anybody who wants to know the ASAP in their area, just reach out to me and I'll connect them to that person.
Yeah, I'm sure they can also contact their local elder services, and they'll be able to direct them to whoever is the best person to make the recommendations, right?
Absolutely. There's elder services, and then isn't there the
Council of Aging,
Thank
they
you.
have, yeah.
each town has that, and you can reach out to that person as well
Yeah.
to point you in the right direction.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But I'll put my email, because I saw somebody, I don't know when that chat came through. It just showed up now for me. I'll put my email in the chat.
Great, great. While you're putting your email there on the chat, can you give us an idea or maybe some things to think about, as we age in our own home that we bought when we were young with our young family, and we're seeing that we're going to be aging here in place. At what age or at what point do you think is best for people like myself, or a little bit older maybe, to start thinking about maybe what you need is home modification rather than redecorating? Or when do you feel like, or when is a good time for people to start really looking at their home using a different lens that will help them be able to navigate safely around the house?
Now, of course, I'm going to say in the ultimate, being the ultimate planner, that any time is a good time. Like now is the time to do this evaluation. Oftentimes this might become more apparent maybe at like 40, 50, 60, but I really think now is the appropriate time. And I'll use, for example, my brother he decided to sell his home and move into like a 55 and up community. And so he was actually building a new home for himself. And I said to him, who listens to their sister, right? I said to him, you have a shower that you have to step into. Do you consider having a barrier-free shower? And he's like, no, it's 55 and up. They must know what they're doing. And I can't tell you how many 55 and up communities I have seen that, maybe they're following the code for architects, for the ADA or whatever, the American Disabilities Act, and, following the code book. But as I keep saying, this is about people, it's us living in our homes. So I think the time to think about it is right away, is now. And, even if it's what the 55 and up community says is good, that walk-in shower, with the barrier-free shower, could help. It works for everybody. It's universal design that's appropriate. It's pretty. He did not listen to me because as we mentioned, there's a lot of resistance to doing things differently. But, I think the time to think about it is right now. And it's just, like I said, it's a good time to gather the information and look at your home and be like, well, another example, Debbie, that came across my way recently, I was walking with one of my neighbors, and she said, oh, we're thinking about moving. And I would say she was in her mid 60s. And she said, my husband picked out this colonial 1700s colonial home. He's all excited. He's always wanted a historical home. And I said to her, would you be able to live on the first floor of this home if you needed to? And she's like, oh no, it's a very small first floor. And, I was like, well, then she had to get upstairs to get to the very small bathrooms that were up there. And then, I asked her questions like, what are the resources in your community? Do you have access to medical care, like where is this home located, and is it going to have not only the medical support you need, but maybe the community support that you need? Are you going to have contact with people or be isolated? So there's so many factors when it comes to aging in place. And I think she was not thinking about this at all, and was glad that I mentioned all of this. And actually, not due to me, but me and a bunch of other circumstances, they did not go forward with this home. But I was, it's kind of frightening to me for someone to be taking on a circumstance like that without at least considering putting this into the decision-making process. So the time
That
is now.
is, oh my gosh, that is such a good point. That is such a good point, especially for people who, I mean, the prices of homes right now are crazy. People are bidding up. So it's a seller's market. But for those people who can afford a home and they're 40 and up, 50 and up, that's actually a very good thing to think about. Is, okay, you're just put in a big investment and you're thinking you're going to spend the rest of your life here. Can you physically live on the first floor? And what are what rooms need to be on the first floor in order for you to be able to live comfortably on the first floor if you need to? So my goodness, that is such a great point that you raised. So I'm hoping that, from hearing this particular tip, that people will be able to save a lot of money in aggravation in the future by really looking at the landscape of their homes and what rooms are the important rooms that you can easily get in and out of. So wonderful. So we have, we're almost at the top of the hour, Amy. This time went by so fast. Can you give us 3 quick tips? What are some 3 key takeaways that you want all of us to have, so that by the time you leave here, we all leave here during this hour, we have some things to think about? What are some 3 tips?
I would say, like, the first tip is to reach out to that home access professional. And I mean, that's what I'm calling myself, different than a healthcare professional, but somebody who really understands what the options are. So, you can learn your options, find out, reach out to the right professional, find out what your options are and how much they cost, because that is relevant to the decision you're going to make, and be prepared so that in that event that you have that crisis, because crisis you wish they only happen to other people, but eventually every once in a while they come around and they happen to us too. So I would just say it's be prepared. And even if you don't want the evaluation yet, just maybe tuck this information away or put it on a note on your refrigerator or something, so that you have it in the future, so that when that event happens, you know who to call. Because my dated scenario is you're sitting at the yellow pages, paging through, going, who the heck am I going to call for help here? And that's when maybe not so good decisions get made that seem like they're cheaper, but they're not really less expensive in the long run. So be prepared, get your the home evaluations. Like, we offer home evaluations, we don't charge for those. And as you can tell, I'm very passionate and love to do this kind of thing. So I would say get your information ready now and look around your home, see where the danger spots might be, so that you're ready and prepared.
Yeah, we just got a message on the chat. May said, thank you. Interesting presentation. So wonderful. Amy, thank you so much for sharing with us different ways to look at our home, the home that we want to stay in, our castle that we put so much money and effort to live in comfortably. So thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody who came here today to listen in. I want to invite everybody to come back, though. April 12th is my next Aging Strong program, and I will have Tim Bamosi, who is a firefighter, EMS public health officer from Easton. He's going to share with us Easton Community Health and Paramedic medicine program that they created as an initiative originally because of COVID, and how they're able to support the community. So I'm hoping that from listening to Tim Bamosi, that other communities will be inspired and hopefully take on a similar program. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Thomas Crane Public Library, QATV, and Amy. Have a great day, everybody, and stay safe. Bye-bye.